Pleased to be joined by Metta World Peace. Coach Metta with us on the show. Good to see you, man. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out. I know it was a really sad day in sports. A big time, big day to reflect
Yes.
on some cool, on some history. So I'm excited to be here, and so yeah, really excited to be here.
When you think of Jerry West, you think of what?
Pardon me, I had cheese snack. I lick my fingers, but when I think of Jerry West, there's a couple of things that stand out. Obviously, being a kid and at some point wanting to make it to the NBA. I think you see that logo, and you don't, as a kid, call it 1988 or 1990. You don't even know what the logo is. You just see the logo and you want to make it, or you're just interested in watching the Bulls play the Pistons or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you go there and you're like, oh, wow, this is an actual person. Oh, wow, you don't know about, no, Jerry West, he actually played the game. Then you're in the NBA. Oh, wow, this guy really exists. You actually meet the guy. Right. And it's like, hold on, how's he the logo? Michael Jordan's not the logo. Then you do a little history on the guy. You're like, oh, wow, this guy was a pretty good player. It's just not in 1995 or 1998. He wasn't a pretty good player. But back in his time, he was a great player. And sometimes we discredit how good the generation was before us because, yeah, they can't defend themselves now because the joints don't work like it used to. So you could talk all the trash you want, right? But when it comes down to it, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played against Wilt Chamberlain, or Wilt Chamberlain played against Kareem. Kareem played against Hakeem. Hakeem played against Shaq, right? This era, this torch was passed on very similar to a heavyweight linear title championship belt. At some point, everybody touched another person on the court, from generation to generation. And Jerry West was a serious player from what I hear and from what I've seen. And even when you look at his clutch moments, I don't care what era you're in. Look at all the players now that are not able to, at times, come through in a clutch. That's just a human side of you. That's just the mentally tough side of you. How focused are you? How bad do you want it? So if you don't want to match up their games, we can match up your heart, right? We can match up, if you had more heart than this person, and if you didn't have more heart than this person, well, if he was in this era and worked out the same way, it would have been the same results, right? So I just say that because I just want to make sure we pay homage, to Jerry West and the past players.
And Coach Metta, it's amazing because there's not a lot of, living actual monuments, right? And now with the passing of Jerry West, he's a guy who's the logo. He was a living monument, and all the different eras he was a part of throughout his career, going back to his playing days. But you mentioned him as Mr. Clutch and known as a clutch player. He's a guy who lost 7 NBA Finals. He won the one championship, lost 4 Game 7s. When you work with someone like that, there's a lot of wisdom in those failures, right? Those Game 7 losses that he can talk about. How big of a part of that was with him, of learning from those tough things, of always being number 2 to the Celtics when he was on those great Lakers teams?
That's a guy that never gives up. You could talk about he's been there, won it once, lost. I think he lost 9. But when you talk about the amount of Game 7s, that's persistence. That's resilience. He ran up against Bill Russell, who is arguably the greatest player when you talk about impact on winning, which is supposed to be the main thing, right? And you ran up against a guy like Bill Russell. Well, nobody was beating Bill Russell, not even the greatest player in our century, which is Wilt Chamberlain. He couldn't even beat Bill Russell. So for a guy like, Jerry to continue to try and never give up, he set the bar pretty high in terms of, resilience and being persistent, never giving up, and still being Mr. Clutch and working and being that good where they said, hey, we got to give this guy MVP, even though he lost. Never been done before.
Do we overlook history more than we used to when it comes to the game itself? Do you think the guys in the league look back on the legacies the way maybe you certainly discussed it. You've done that in the late '90s, right? You played for the Story franchise. Lakers won a title there. Like, what's the vibe you get now compared to what it was?
Well, even to discredit me a little bit, I didn't watch college basketball even in 1997. When I got into college in 1997, I could not tell you what happened in '96. I didn't even know what happened in '93.
Okay. So when you got to St. John's, you weren't watching anything.
I've never watched college basketball.
Wow.
Was into it. I can't tell you in 1993 who played in 1997. So I'm not a super historian. I love the game enough to work hard at the game.
Yeah.
And then when I got older, I started watching NBA. So I never really went back to college basketball, with the exception of looking at the game where Kareem Abdul-Jabbar actually lost to Notre Dame. So I did watch like the last quarter of that game when they won 66 in a row. But I'm not a super historian. But in terms of the NBA, everybody got these questions like, how good were they? And as I looked at Wilt Chamberlain run the floor or Bill Russell run the floor, and I'm like, okay, they're not really using their left hands at times. Different things like that was happening. But if you take that same person and put them into this era, they're going to be good, right? It's all about athleticism. So it's no one, call it 6'4" player that all of a sudden you're playing against Bill Russell in his prime, and now all of a sudden you're 6'11". No, he's still more athletic than you. Jerry West is still, he's a wolf. He still has more heart than you. Jerry West left this, he left us here with passion. If you ever spoke to Jerry West, you could feel the passion. The last time I spoke to Jerry West was in the Laker locker room. He came in and they invited him when he was a Warrior executive, actually. But they invited him into the locker room, and you could feel the passion and the fire. And I kind of threw a little light under there, and I said, man, I think we could beat y'all. I said a little something like that, just being a little bit, kind of agitating them a little bit, and you see them just ready to bite. And that's one of my fondest memories of him. And I'm like, wow, he really got that fire.
You seem like a guy who's got a lot of respect for the game in different eras. I feel like now anytime there's a debate, there is a bit of a lack of respect, but it's always boiled down to LeBron versus MJ when we're talking about the greatest of all time. Coach Metta, is that too limited when we look at those two? And where do you fall on that when you hear players of different eras talk about LeBron James' greatness versus Michael Jordan's greatness?
Well, respectfully, and kindly, when you look at they're both signed with, different sneaker companies. So that's dominating the conversation. We can't let the fact that just because these players are signed under the same umbrella, that all of a sudden Wilt Chamberlain is not important. Right? Because Wilt Chamberlain doesn't currently have a signature shoe. Right? Or Bill Russell doesn't currently have a signature shoe. Wilt Chamberlain is the most dominant player ever. Now, Shaq could have been the most dominant player ever, but I think Shaq got bored. Shaq was just dominating. It was way too easy for Shaq. So Shaq didn't do what it was going to take for him to be in the same conversation as Wilt, because he should be in the same conversation. Then when you look at Michael Jordan had a passing in his family during his first three-peat. So a lot of people say Michael Jordan just got lazy. Like, what is everybody talking about? Michael Jordan had a death in the family with his dad. He went to go play baseball. We got to give that some type of leeway. Now the second time we can argue that he could have won it again, but that's Jerry Krause. Jerry Krause chose to break the team up. With that being said, LeBron is great in his era. He has stats that Michael Jordan don't have. But Michael Jordan got some stats that LeBron don't have, and Wilt Chamberlain got stats that Michael Jordan don't have. So I think all these guys are great in their own right, and they all got to be in that same conversation. There is going to be one, though. There can't be a tie. And I think right now Wilt Chamberlain is the clear leader.
How much would you love to play defense in this NBA right now?
I would love to play defense, but also imagine if a small forward guarding 260-pound Metta World Peace that can shoot and post, they can't touch me. This is just because people forget I've averaged 20 before. I've been the go-to man for 6 years in my career before I got with the Lakers. I was in my prime when I averaged 25 in the playoffs against the Lakers. And that's at, and then when you look at 2004 against the Pistons, you know, there's nothing but grabbing. So offensively, I wish the rules, but you know what's going to really tell us all the answers that we want if they bring back the 90s rules, not the fighting and flipping people over and hacksaw Jim Duggan 90s rules. Not that. I'm talking about bringing back the rules, and that's going to tell us who could have played against who in the 90s.
Do you, and I don't know how much you keep up with this, but what do you make of the impact of Caitlin Clark on the WNBA and now being so much more popular with television viewers? When you see that story and you see how she is being guarded and played, it's more of a 90s NBA method of going after her early on in her career. So what do you think when you watch that?
Well, Indiana is it's the center of the universe. I love Indianapolis. There's no place better. Let me just say that. I love Caitlin. I think welcome to the 90s basketball. I think she's earning it. I think let her earn it. Don't feel sorry for Caitlin. Caitlin is tougher than everybody thinks. Don't feel sorry for Caitlin. She is a warrior, right? She's going to get through all of this. Just keep that in mind. She's going to go down as one of the greatest players. I also think the WNBA players that currently exist, and the ones that's currently playing before her, and the ones that even became like Cheryl Miller, they set the platform. And I think what's happening here, even though Caitlin is captivating, she is captivating, and that's a fact. That's why we love her. But I think they set her up for failure in terms of getting along with the colleagues with all the accolades, and they gave her so much. I think responsibly they should have, spread out the love. Media spread out the love to the other players. Corporations and brands spread out the love to the other players. You're setting Caitlin up for failure. You're giving her all this stuff, and you're forgetting about the players that set it up, that's been sacrificing on $15,000 contracts, on $30,000 contracts, right? Of course, they're going to feel some type of way because this is not a Caitlin league. This is the WNBA. So I think they got to be a little bit more strategic on how they're marketing people. You got to spread it out just a little bit, because it's well-deserved. You look at Asia Wilson, you look at all these girls, obviously Caitlin is captivating. She is the most captivating. Let's just say that. She is the most captivating, but I think we don't want to set her up for failure.
Coach Metta with us. Lakers coaching search. JJ Redick. I'm curious from this standpoint. How much do the players have a say in this league about the coach?
Well, I would say, Metta World Peace is probably the best head coaching prospect out right now. I'll just but outside of myself, being a 5-year coach at Cal State LA, I have actual experience coaching the last 2 years. My team went to the NCAA tournament twice last 2 years, which haven't been done in the history. I'm on the bench. I'm at 6 a.m. practices, 6 a.m., up at 5 a.m. practice, actually putting in plays and putting in sets, women's basketball Division II. But and then also 4 years prior, Palisades High School, 2 championships there. While being a go-to guy, I actually played on teams and been a go-to guy and a role player. So I'm going to definitely shout out myself. Coach Metta is in the building and ready to head. I'm not going to be shy. A lot of people say, I don't know if this guy wants to, come here and try to take my job. I'm being really honest. I want to be a head coach one day. But in terms of the names that's been out there in the media, I don't.
It's the Lakers. We're talking about the Lakers here,
They got turned down by Dan Hurley. Yeah.
It's weird not to have a coach now.
Well, it's somebody here that is just
you got to call LeBron.
Breakfast and ready to go.
Do you have Rich Paul's phone number by chance? Because that may be able to help you.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf, so I don't necessarily use politics. I'm just a good coach, and I know the game, and I'll just keep it at that. But with that being said, I think some of the names, I support the Lakers, so whatever the Lakers do, I'm going to always be supportive of the Lakers, whether it's, JJ or this guy or this guy. I'm always going to wear that Laker hat when I get the opportunity. I'm always going to go to the games and always going to root them on. But I haven't heard a lot. It's just the same kind of names, so to speak. So I don't really necessarily have a real opinion
Yeah.
on the coaching search.
Do you think it's LeBron James' call to make, or is it Jeannie Buss's call to make?
Well, I mean, I can't really answer that because I'm not in the front office, right? So, like, if I was the owner of a team and I said, okay, hey, star player, who do you want to coach? Or if I'm the owner of a team and I said, I'm bringing in the coach. I just don't know. Even though I do things with the Lakers in the community, I do things with the Lakers. I do different things, but I'm not necessarily in the front office of basketball. So I really couldn't answer that at all.
Looking at your Instagram, Metta World Peace 37. The 37 is a Michael Jackson tribute, isn't it? Am I right in that?
Yeah, when Michael Jackson passed away, it was kind of tough. You think about songs like Heal the World and Black or White and all this stuff when we grew up as kids. That was devastating in June. I remember it was really devastating. And when I was coming to the Lakers after that, I wrote a song called Champions in 2009, kind of predicting the championship. And I also wanted to do something great. And I was like, what can I do that's just great? Because this year is going to be a great year. And when you looked at Thriller being 37 weeks, #1 on the charts,
Okay.
look, that was pretty impressive. So then I changed my number to 37. And then when I signed it like MJ. So if you see me sign my signature, the 3 looks like the M, and then the 7 looks like a J. And the famous signature move when Michael Jackson is doing that moonwalk and kind of gets on his heels, and his knees is like bent. So the 7 kind of looks like that, and it was just something, just paying homage to the positive stuff, that Michael Jackson brought to the world with songs like Heal the World and Black or White, stuff like that.
Man, you put a lot of thought into the signature, not just the number, but the signature. Practicing the signature. Yeah. I'm curious. I mean, the detail that you think about is fascinating to me, man.
Yeah, it was really cool. So sometimes I sign it like, it's kind of feel like you're Michael Jackson.
He's an artist. He's an artist.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Metta World Peace. Coach Metta has been our guest. Hey, thank you for the time, and would love to do this again soon. Are you watching the finals?
Man, I'm watching the finals.
Are you entertained or not? Chad and I we haven't been very entertained.
Games just haven't been close enough so far. Has been the problem.
Well, one of the issues is when you talk about today's era, we need to, free the game up because the consumer wants it. The reason why, the contracts are so high is because marketing, technology, by default, everything's up and around stocks, everything. Now, in terms of viewership, you look at the games when MJ played, there are more view games back then than now, right? And I think the players, they got to take responsibility. It starts with things like the All-Star game. You can't just turn the fans off. Well, why would a fan want to continue to spend 2 hours out of their day? Now, keep in mind, I'm watching it, but I think the players, I know it's really difficult because we can't speak for the players. They're getting paid astronomical amounts of money. We don't really understand what that is. But what I can say is settle in. Now it's time to take these games serious. It's time to play hard at the All-Star games. Us fans want to see you. I'm a fan now. We want to see you. Like, get us back. Bring us, reel us back in. And, I think for the most part, it's great. Boston's playing a great old school team type of basketball, old school Detroit Pistons, pass the ball, move it around. That old school Chauncey Billups MVP. You just never know who's going to get the MVP of the finals. So Boston, I want to give a shout out to Boston. They're playing extremely well.
Final thing for you. Favorite player right now in the league? Who are you going with?
Favorite player in the league right now? I'm going with Embiid. Embiid is just like 7 foot, could move, just
You like the big guys. You definitely like the big men. Going with Wilt, Shaq, and now Embiid is your favorite current player. I
mean, he's just incredible. He can shoot. He got Hakeem type moves at times. He could get to the basket. He has fluidity to his game. There are a lot of other great players. I would like to see some of the better players like Joker and Luka play a little bit more defense, but their offensive games is pretty solid. Luka's super captivating, but I got to go with Embiid.
And I'd love to see you play defense in this league.
Yep.
I'm just saying that, just for
It was a sight to
defensive
behold.
MVP
It'd be a
stuff,
few plays. It'd definitely be a few plays locked up.
Yeah, they wouldn't know what to do anymore with this.
Hey man, we're rooting for you to get that Lakers gig, by the way.
Yeah, man.
After this interview, but we're all in on you getting the Lakers gig. This was awesome.
I support the Lakers in whatever decision they make.
You got to draft Bronny. You have to draft Bronny, but that's okay.
Yep. Coach Metta, you're the man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, that's Coach Metta. Metta World Peace.
It was awesome.